Reinis. How are you today?
Hello, Maris. I'm doing great. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great. It's great to see you here. I understand you have prepared a presentation that you're going to be talking us through.
Yep, exactly.
I will leave the stage to you then.
All right. Can you actually see my screen now? Is everything okay?
Yes.
All right, good. All right. So hello, everyone. Really pleasure to be here. Pleasure to see you all. Just kidding. I don't see you, but I hope a lot of you are there. And the focus for today's session will be mainly looking at the factors and the practical steps that can lead to successful expansion in new markets. And more specifically, of course, since this is Meet Magento Baltics, we are also looking at the businesses from the Baltics and what it takes for the businesses from the Baltics running their stores on Magento to actually have successful expansion to the global stores and maybe to just other markets. I guess the first question would be, why does it even matter? Why do we even need to think about it? And well, probably it's pretty clear and it's pretty straightforward that the Baltics market is quite limited and it has its certain capacity. So even though the e-commerce market is growing and will most likely continue to grow in the Baltics, as it is in the most of the world, year by year, but we only have so much people in the Baltics, and so this is why for businesses that are looking to grow and to scale their sales and their turnovers, it's at some point they reach to the well, basically conclusion that they need to look at other markets as well. If we just look at pure numbers, then 2.8 billion is the e-commerce sales in the Baltics 2021. And if we look at the worldwide e-commerce, it's around 4 trillion. And just to visualize it a little bit, if we look at it in a basic pie chart, then you can't even see the Baltic market. It's basically a drop in the ocean if we look at the e-commerce sales. What we need to note, of course, is that almost half or even more than half of the e-commerce sales are going to China. So this is both the Chinese local people and local market buying online, like GD.com, and also, of course, people from abroad buying from Alibaba, AliExpress, etc. So, of course, it's this is one part to consider, but then there's a big part of e-commerce action happening also by Western marketplaces, for example, Amazon and eBay. But the good news is that still around 30% are driven by the rest of the world e-commerce retailers. So there is certainly opportunity in a global scale. And that's why also for today, we have a few topics to talk about. And the idea is to also give a bit of practical tips of what you should do or what you shouldn't do maybe when you are planning international expansion for your e-commerce store. And we have, I've actually today I'm celebrating 6 years in Scandiweb, and we have definitely seen a lot of success cases for merchants going to new markets. At the same time, we've also seen quite a few failures or not so maybe successful executions. So just from this experience and from also from general tips, I'll try to actually help you, some of you who might be thinking about going to new markets. So let's start first with what you will probably want to do is you will actually need to think about the new markets that you want to enter, right? And thankfully, it's from technical perspective, it's quite easy to just also enable your Magento store to sell worldwide. At the same time, every market is very different, and it requires a unique strategy if you are to be successful in conquering these new markets. And so one of the core steps in successful expansion is actually to identify the markets that are most likely to drive success for your business. Um, you have to figure out what is it that what is working for you currently in the Baltics. You should know your top 10 percentile customers by their names almost. You should know their order history almost. So what is it that keeps them coming back? What is it that they love about your brand and about your products? Is it customer service? Is it good pricing? Is it great product range? There are several qualitative methods to also get to know this stuff. And by knowing what makes your product successful and your brand successful in the local market, you can also look for markets abroad uh, where basically similar needs and conditions exist. So this will be one of the ways how to actually look at what could be a next potential target market. And if you eventually don't maybe decide to actually go and pursue new markets, then actually having this knowledge about your current target audience and customers and your value propositions and what your customers love about your business will anyways help you to do better marketing, better communication with your customer base. So that's something that you should do anyways, even if you're not expanding. And then, of course, you will need to do research. And there are several tools that are available to help you actually identify what could be the best market for you. You can start researching with Google Analytics or Ahrefs. So typically in e-commerce, it will be easier to try and capture existing demand and interest rather than generate a new demand for a new market. So there are several tools that can help you evaluate this interest and demand in other markets, and this would probably be one of the first things to look at as well. So you can start researching with Google, Google Trends, for example, and Google Analytics. What are currently, if there are already maybe users from abroad, from different markets coming to your website and already finding your products and your business. Then you can as well look at Ahrefs. So this is a tool that really helps to understand user search behavior across different markets and keywords. So you would want to actually look at what are the keywords and what are the popularity in different markets for these keywords and product groups that you're selling. If you there are a lot of different useful tools, but some just to list how you can already start to get idea of what could be the target markets is there's a great tool as Google Market Research, Market Finder, and this free tool actually allows you to figure out what are the different markets and consumers based opportunities based on your current website, for example. So you can go ahead and connect this tool to your website, connect it to some of them, maybe give Google some data, and it will actually suggest you what could be potential expansion markets that might work for your business. And Google Trends, it's basically a tool that helps you to see what are the trends for in search demand in different kinds of markets. So if we just look at one example, so maybe you know, maybe you don't, there's such a sport as Padel. And it's a weird racket sport that's a mix of basically tennis and squash. So they play in a box and 2x2 or 1x1, and it actually originated in Mexico, and it became quite popular also in Spain. But as we can easily see from trends, from Google Trends, it's also quite popular in Sweden, for example. Especially the paddle and paddle rackets search terms. And if we look at the trends as well, we can look at past 5 years. We can see that the demand is growing or interest is growing. So this could be a potential market for you if you're selling such things. Then, of course, just from the brief analysis, you want to consider logistics. And at this point, you already maybe have a few target markets in mind. So you should start considering the more practical and operational aspects of expanding. So What are your current logistical abilities? The United States might be a great market in terms of its pure economy size and purchasing power, but can you really reach it? Yeah, you need to do some basic sanity checks. And considering, yeah, you need to consider the distance with your customers. You need to consider how fast can you ship the product and how big of an impact of shipping costs that will leave to your customer, and also the price value ratio. And then you would want to, after the first kind of part of research, let's say you have five, maybe more markets in mind already that could be potential ones, and you want to already start looking more into these markets and understand their specifics. So let's actually look deeper into these markets, and you'll want to do generic macroeconomic data sanity checks as well. So what's the economy size? Is it growing? What has been the current impact of COVID and also the Ukraine crisis? And how does it affect the future prospects of the market's continuation to grow and to actually have potential? Also, what is the demographics? If your target audience is kids and parents, maybe what are the birth rate trends? Does this market have a long-term future potential? Most European populations typically at the moment are actually getting older, and the birth rates are styling. So maybe that might be a problematic in the long term if you look at the next maybe 10 or 20 years. Maybe you're not planning in that big time range yet. So the basic macroeconomic and general trend checks will further just inform your decision making and planning for selecting the correct market for your business. Yeah, so this is just, there are several tools, of course, available and resources where you can actually look at the purchasing power and for example, the economic, macroeconomic data. And of course, like for us in the Baltics, Scandinavia, Central Europe, Western Europe can probably be good options in terms of being close, having economies that actually have purchasing power, as well as having rather similar cultures that are more maybe easily to communicate with and deliver your message, and potentially have also similar interests. Then you'll of course want to continue to understand your target markets, and different cultures actually have different levels of also activity in online shopping and also different preferences. So what are the typical product groups that are purchased online? Do your products fit that? And different delivery and shipping preferences. For example, almost half of online shoppers in Germany prefer to pay with PayPal. While in Finland, this is only like 20%, or the differences can be quite big as well in terms of payment methods. So that's just one of the examples. So you'll really want to understand what is each market's online behavior and their activity in e-commerce. Then an important aspect will be to analyze your competitors. So, and when it comes to actually new markets, in most cases, you'll have a big challenge on your hands. So you want to understand the competitive landscape and consider why will people choose to shop shop with you over the competition. So a useful thing can be a SWOT analysis exercise. This will help you understand how you stack up against the current competition. Is your product unique? You have a great team, maybe of marketers that have awesome experience in different markets for getting your product in front of the target audience, maybe increasing the brand awareness. Maybe you have a pipeline of basically producing new product lines that can be, and this timeline can be short for you. Or maybe you are selling just like electronic goods from the most popular brands, and there are like 50 other stores doing the exactly same thing. And in this case, you'll have really big challenges in actually being successful in conquering new markets. So you need to kind of identify the gaps that you can fill in a certain market. So SimilarWeb is actually one tool that can be quite useful in understanding the competitive landscape. And once you already have an idea of existing competition in the market, for example, the names of the stores or who are the ones taking the top positions in Google with ads or organic for the product categories or products that you're selling at the moment, or the keywords that you know already that you would want to target. So you can actually already select a few competitors. And SimilarWeb is useful in kind of spying a little bit on the existing competition, and you can also grasp approximately how successful are they actually in the online environment. So, for example, you can see what are their traffic. You can consider, okay, what is my store's current conversion rates, and what if the conversion rates applied to the same kind of case? What could be the potential also turnovers for me? And you can also see their global activity actually for the competitors. Are they penetrating any other markets, and maybe that you didn't consider before? So maybe this can also give you actually ideas of other markets that could be useful for your case. Right, we should have now a selection of the markets or markets where we have decided to enter, where we see the opportunity and to basically grow our business. So now I think it's very much about the steps to actually getting it done, and of course, planning, research is an important part, but execution will be the one that actually determines if you are successful or not. So there are 5 steps that we have actually selected here that we find very important to be successful in getting to new markets. So first of all, actually supporting the local market language, we see it as a critical step if you are about to be successful in actually communicating with your target market audience. And even though like you can consider that most people will speak or understand English. And even if they do, significant part will still prefer to use their native language when shopping. So by localizing your site language, you'll not only be able to communicate better with your customers and target audience, but it will also help your site rank better and search engines on search engines basically, and then help to capture this existing demand that exists. And not just the site should be in the local language, but also the marketing and branding messaging should be done in the local language. So you have to have this local kind of user journey experience for your customers if you want to be successful. There are multiple ways actually to go about translating your current content, and also setting systems in place that will ensure also kind of the future content that the future content gets translated. Localize is actually one of tools available, and it's pretty good automation that lets you translate a lot of automate a lot of the translation work. So this can be especially important once you have already more than 3 languages and going like to 10 languages. Then actually maintaining content and having it all localized can become a big challenge. So you would want to look at some automation ways. Of course, there are other options out there, and it can be in-house translators or third-party translation agencies that can help you translate your content and your marketing as well. Then, of course, this part nobody likes, but as a business, you need to think about this, and you need to think about the duties and the taxes that your customers or that are there in international trade. And actually, DDP allows duties and taxes to be paid and cost to be assumed by the merchant, but you do need to consider this in your pricing as well. So you need to remember about the taxes, right? And Avalar is actually one of the more popular Magento extensions used to set up automatic tax calculations and basically manage the taxes efficiently and more or less automatically, so from one place. So this is typically what merchants choose, and what has proved also from our experience to be efficient way how to manage global trade and multi-store setups. Then you would want to, I briefly touched upon it as well before, but you want to think about the availability of the payment methods that are most preferred in the target market. And this can actually make or break your checkout conversion rates. So you really, there's no worst thing than spending your marketing budget in getting people and users to come to your site to find actually products already that they are ready to purchase, add them to the cart, go to the checkout, and watch them leave when they see the available payment methods and that there isn't the payment method that they actually prefer or like or are used to. So you want to really consider and have a selection of the payment methods that are popular for each market. Checkout.com is a great option that you can use to tailor the payment methods to your target audience in a specific market. So they have a lot of currencies, a lot of different payment methods available that can be tailored to each market and each store from Magento side. Then you'll want to use the right shipping strategy. So the vast majority of customers expect shipping to be fast and usually free. And this is, I think, becoming even more and more important nowadays, because if your shipping costs will be worse than for the customer than competition, most likely the customers will leave and buy from competition. So there are generally two options to fulfill your online store orders, and those are basically either ship them from your existing internal warehouses or using fulfillment center services. Each option has its own benefits and drawbacks, and you'll need to consider what will work best in your case, in your business case, basically. But generally, localized fulfillment service will provide a better shopping experience for your customers. So that might be something that you'll want to consider how to set it up and what impact it will have on your actual end profits eventually. So one option is to minimize the shipping costs, and also more importantly, the delivery time is by storing the goods in warehouses in your chosen destination country. 3PL company is a third-party logistics company that fulfills your online orders for you, basically. And as a online merchant, you'll take care of the orders and leave the rest to an outsourced company, basically. Which can be a good option if that doesn't affect the costs too much. And then you want to, of course, also take care of your customer support. So responsive customer support is an important factor in online business value proposition. And if your customer support sucks, then you'll have a little bit of trouble getting customers back for the second purchase, especially if they tried to reach customer support and got a bad experience, didn't get their questions answered. So typically preferred communication channels will vary from country to country, but well, three main ones, phone, email, and live chat will consistently hold the greatest popularity. So you need to plan your strategy for being reachable and responsive. There are several services that can help you with fast responses in different languages and answer a big part of your customer questions via on-site chat. The one such example is Ultimate AI, but there are other solutions out there. And this will not be a great customer support on its own or customer service on its own, but if it's the only way how local customers can reach you. So you'll definitely need to think also about ways how to support phone or have like a local team that can answer your customer questions. And then, of course, eventually when you have everything set up and then you have prepared your Magento store, your localized Magento store, you'll want to think about marketing. So without marketing, there's very little chance of actually reaching the target audience with your message and with your products. And so that's why we have a few tips also for launching the marketing campaigns. So first of all, organic search presence can be very strong and long-term channel that brings consistent amount of traffic. but you have to consider that it is difficult to reach great results in the short term. So if you're just opening up a local store, then it might be a challenge, first of all, to kind of get to the position when Google actually will consider you to be the most beneficial source. It will depend on the competition, of course, for a given keyword, but SEO can be important. So you also will want to consider region-specific keywords differences and language differences if you want to be successful there. Um, Also geo-IP, so if you have the multi-store setup for different locations, so geo-IP redirection is something that you'll want to use just to make sure that people from the countries where you have localized website versions are reaching this version of the website, and it will also help you with your SEO rankings. Email campaigns is definitely and your audience list is something to invest in for a good return on investment for marketing channels. It's something to think about. So you will typically also want to have personalized experiences and personalized campaigns for the different markets. You want to consider different holidays for different markets, and you want to take part in these because that's typically a way how to boost your sales during the year. And you also want to actually consider the time zone adjustments because there are different times during the days when email open rates are higher and when email open rates are lower. So you want to leverage that information. And talking also about micro influencers, they are typically perceived as people like me, and meaning they could add more credibility to your business. So especially when going into a new market, it's something you might want to leverage instead of maybe putting more of your marketing budget into Google ads or Facebook ads. So actually getting this more credibility and brand awareness through micro influencers can be successful as well. And you want to also create separate social media accounts so that are market specific. So you'll want to communicate in the local market there, which will typically prove to be more successful than just having like one generic branding social media account. And that's more or less it. I hope some of these things have been useful, and I hope that the Baltic market will also continue to expand, and I hope that also merchants from the Baltics will be more and more successful in the global market.
Thank you, Reinis. It's been so insightful. A couple of questions from the audience. You obviously gave a lot of really good suggestions how to go about into a new market, but what are your first 1, 2, or 3 steps you'd suggest to a merchant who's matured and is prepared to make the first steps? What are these first steps?
Well, I think, again, all of those steps are important, right? And eventually it is going to come down to execution. So, and for each business, again, I would say that first of all, understanding your business and your audience and what is working for you now. This can really give you ideas and first of all, to understand if it is worth to invest all the resources, all the time to actually try and capture a new market, because there can be cases when it's not good for your current setup or for your current products, right? So you can save a lot of maybe money and time by actually looking at your business critically and understanding what are the opportunities for you.
You did dive into translations there, and you did mention that translation is very important. Why translation would be the step 1? Why not 2 or 3?
Sorry?
You did dive into translations, and you mentioned that translation is really important. Why would you want to start with translation? Why not put the translation as 2nd or 3rd step, perhaps launching in another language?
You wouldn't typically start with it. I would say that it's just one of the ways how to ensure actually this more personalized experience for a certain market. So we can look at Finland, actually, like I don't know, 99% probably of people speak English in Finland, and I've heard even stories that some families internally speak English instead of Finnish, right? But they still, most of them will still prefer to buy and do online shopping in Finnish language. Uh, there are certain, I think, psychological biases as well, but it certainly maybe feels more comfortable and more safe in that way. So it is an important aspect there.
All right, and what's your stance on Google Translate? Why not just, bash it in Google Translate, push it to the web? Do you really need a human translation?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen I think a lot of good funny cases when you really think that, hey, these guys use probably Google Translate. So it can really backfire. So you can create actually a bad image for your brand that can be quite long-term effect as well. Sometimes it can maybe also create really these funny cases that can be kind of even a good exposure. But in most cases, yeah, you'd want to even have a local team and people speaking the local language, or for people that is a native language to actually recheck all your marketing messaging or the content that you have on the site, not to make any stupid mistakes.
All right. Thank you, Reinis, so much for joining us today. And thank you for the insights. I think it's been super helpful for many merchants here.
All right. It's a pleasure.